Do me a favor while you're marking that. Mark Dumbo, mark Little Marco, mark Pocahontas, mark all the name calls that he constantly does. I don't care. I get it, but it's in context because we're talking about him. So can we get started on this show? Because I am not going to be lectured, especially by a Trump supporter, about etiquette and name calling. Welcome to the Left Shew Politics Podcast. I am the host for this episode, Rick Shew. I'm going to say at the top of the show, I'm drinking on the show. I have to drink on this show to get through this show, to keep my sanity for this show. Right, Doctor? Do you think it?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. In addition to listening to this episode, please remember to follow us always on Facebook, Twitter, and Twitter is at Left Shew Politic. Always subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. If you like what me, Michael Malloy, and Jeremy Grokley are doing here, please write us nice reviews on iTunes or wherever you might listen to podcasts. And with me today is my returning guest, live from New York, Trump supporter, Dr. Douglas Friedrich. How are you, Doc?
Hello, Left Shoe crew and audience. I am fine, thank you. Greetings from New York City.
I appreciate you doing the show. You're not a podcaster. I reached out on Twitter or Facebook a couple of years ago and just said I want to interview a Trump supporter and I don't want some backwoods idiot. And we ended up having a mutual friend that recommended you, and you're a doctor in New York. I'm a blowhard restaurant bar owner guy here in Dallas, and we did a show in May of 2017. And you explained to me why you like Trump. I explained to you why he's a horrible person and president, and we had a lot of disagreements. But I'm assuming since that was so long ago and you justified supporting him very well, as best as one can, I can only trust that you are here to tell me now, after 2 years since we last spoke, and it's only more apparent what a pathological liar he is, that you've seen the light. Correct? Is that the revelation? That's the show, right? You're here to admit your bad vote and wrongdoing. Is that correct?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, Rick, because I just wanted to make just a brief opening statement that I'm just also doing kind of a social experiment and research here, because I've had a lot of interactions with left-wing Democrats like you, and I, along with many people on my side, the right side of the political spectrum, find it very difficult to engage somebody like you in an adult conversation.
That's interesting when you support a third grader.
Okay, can I just finish my point? I'll just give me. Okay. I need 2 minutes to make this opening statement. Okay,
please go ahead.
Okay, so I agreed to be on this show, and understood in that agreement was that we were going to have an adult conversation. By an adult conversation, it implies no name calling and no cursing. Because in my professional life as a physician of 2 medical specialties, a former pilot, very well established in my community, I variously times run into many disagreements with my fellow colleagues. We have very heated conversations, never resort to name calling or cursing. So I assume that you will be able to have an adult conversation with me on whatever subject we come up with. That said, based on our last conversation, I'm just going to keep track of how many times you curse and resort to schoolyard name calling. Already, you've done it twice already. I just want to let you know.
Hold on. I'll say this, and we'll get started. First of all, cursing is allowed. There's nothing. There's if you feel the need to curse. I'm not going to have the cursing police over this episode or any of our shows. That's A. Okay. B. I'm not going to name call you. I'm going to show you respect. But we have in the office right now the biggest name calling person that's ever held that office, and that person sparks that sort of behavior constantly.
But you're talking about him. I'm talking about you, Rick. I'm talking about you. I'm not talking about the
I'm not going to.
Are you capable of having an adult conversation?
Doug, I don't name call you. Okay?
I'm not talking about me. I'm not talking about name calling me. I'm talking about any subject we're talking about. That other subject happens to be a human being, can refer to that human being who happens to sit in the office of president without silly, childish name calling. If you I understand. I don't think you can, which is totally fine.
Doug, it would be really fantastic as a Trump supporter if you held the guy that you voted for, that you're claiming to vote for again, to an iota of the standard that you're holding me for on this podcast.
I'm not having a conversation with him, Rick. I'm having a conversation with you.
Who name calls constantly. I'm not going to promise you anything, but I will promise you this.
I'm just
I'm going to promise you. I'm going to promise you this.
That is very difficult to have an adult conversation with someone on your side. You can say whatever you want. It's your show.
Yes, because the mega crowd that supports the biggest name-calling infant that's ever held that public office is real. Do me a favor while you're marking that. Mark Dumbo, mark Little Marco, mark Pocahontas, mark all the name calls that he constantly does. I don't care. I get it, but it's in context because we're talking about him. So can we get started on this show? Because I am not going to be lectured, especially by a Trump supporter, about etiquette and name calling.
Wasn't lecturing you.
I'm not going to name call you.
A point that is very difficult to have an adult conversation.
We're going to have
on your side.
An adult conversation about someone who's not an adult. It doesn't act like an adult. And by virtue of that, I can't promise what comes up. But let's continue, okay? All right, so I appreciate you being on the show, and I do genuinely mean that. The catalyst for this episode started like this. Since our show, we don't know each other personally. I've never met you, but we've built a little bit of a friendship / relationship, whatever, the last couple of years, just bantering dudes on a mass text with our friend Eric. And when the Mueller Report, let me rephrase that. When the William Barr, I don't believe a president can obstruct justice, handpicked attorney general, released his 4-page memo about the Mueller Report, you text me that this proves that Trump is both exonerated and vindicated, and I just wanted to give you an opportunity to explain, I'm not going to interrupt you, but why you feel that way. So the floor is yours. Explain to me why, based on what William Barr has released, that you feel like that Trump has been vindicated, exonerated, and this whole thing was a hoax.
Before, I just want to ask you a question on this particular subject, actually. Based on the legal statutes of conspiracy, because I'm sure you know, there is no legal statute of collusion. Do you, Rick Shew, think President Trump committed conspiracy with the Russian government or anybody in his campaign?
I do not think that there. I trust Bob Mueller's judgment that there wasn't a way to charge this president with conspiracy. And I want to say this: I've never ever thought that was going to happen. I have never thought that this report was going to bring this president down. I'm on record on Twitter, Facebook, various podcasts for 2 years talking about this. Not to say that it wouldn't be damning, not to say there wasn't unethical behavior, not to say that he didn't obstruct justice, but I've told everybody, and I've said it time and time again, if you think that there is enough evidence, and I'm not even a lawyer, but I've talked to enough lawyers and I've used enough common sense, that in order to do that, in order to prove conspiracy with the Russian government, he would very literally basically have to have audio recordings of he and Putin talking about conspiring to overthrow the election. And that probably directly didn't happen. And even if it did, there'd be the chances of there being evidence would that be little to nothing. So no, I do not think that. I do trust Bob Mueller's judgment on that. And I appreciate you clarifying that, because there's a world of a difference between colluding with Russians and conspiring directly with the Russian government. We'll get to more of that in a second. But no, I do accept those. I do accept that conclusion.
Okay. This special counsel used a team of about 40 FBI agents. 2,800 subpoenas were issued. It took almost 2 years. 500 warrants were carried out, and they interviewed approximately 500 witnesses. The majority of those lawyers, by the way, were Democratic supporters based on their previous campaign contributions. After this report, the special counsel found that despite efforts of Russians to reach out and try to get people in the Trump campaign to, quote, collude, nobody in the Trump campaign did it. Not one American has been charged on the basis of collusion. The Americans that were charged...
No, hold on. They have not been charged on the basis of conspiracy.
Conspiracy.
Go ahead.
Because there is no charge of collusion.
That is correct.
The majority of the crimes that were processed have been what we call process crimes. They were lying to an FBI investigator, or, as in Paul Manafort's case, crimes that were committed before Trump even ran for office. So I stand behind this report. I feel that the nidus of this report is very questionable, and that is currently being investigated, and I do not wish to speculate on what started this report, although there are indications that some funny business may have been happening, but that is actually being investigated by the Inspector General right now. Can I ask you just one question, Rick? Can I ask you just man-to-man question?
And in the Attorney General, to be
and the Attorney General. When Rick Shew was sitting at home that Saturday, and news broke that there would be no indictments coming out of this report, and the President of the United States did not collude or conspire with the Russian government, was your initial reaction, thank God, or damn, I'm pissed? I'm just curious how you took that.
I'll give you my honest reaction. And I was in the car with my wife, and it came over on the radio, and I was shaking my head. I said, I knew they were not going to be able to charge him with conspiracy. I knew that wasn't going to happen. And to all the liberals, and I will say this, because right now I feel like there are two sets of people that look very foolish. Okay, it's the liberals that, and quite frankly, to give some, just because it's on the record publicly via social media, one out of the three of us, who's a brilliant guy, and this site would be shit without him, but out of the three of us really thought that probably was going to happen and was on record. Now, to be fair, he's backed off on that, even leading up to it, but I've never thought that was going to happen. What struck me the most was the fact that you have an attorney general who auditioned for this role, whether he did it intentionally, or on a conscious level, or it just sort of happened, and Trump picked up on it. But his memo to the Department of Justice, William Barr, last year, saying that a president cannot obstruct justice, well, that was his audition for this role. And very specifically, even in that ridiculous, because it is ridiculous, this memo by any historical president is ridiculous. But for him to say very specifically,
in your opinion, sir, it is ridiculous.
Okay. Well, that's fine. It's my opinion based on I can compare it to Ken Starr. I can compare it to Iran Contra.
Ken Starr actually praised Bob Mueller today on his the way he handled the whole investigation. Just he doesn't. He
that's right. He praised.
And I was,
Bob
by
Mueller.
the way, but I don't know if your audience knows this. I was a former Democrat. I was very much against the Ken Starr and the whole thing that happened to Bill Clinton. I was on the record very much against that. It hurt America. It hurt the presidency, and it was total ridiculous.
I love Bill Clinton, but he did commit perjury. So there was a case.
That's another process crime. This is a lot more serious than that.
I understand that, but when you water down quote unquote process crimes, that's kind of like the difference in saying something like someone getting caught selling drugs versus someone screwing over people via white-collar crimes. It's far more egregious, but it sounds watered down, and quite frankly, they usually walk. So I don't like that point of view because it takes away from the significance of something very serious. And Bill Clinton committing perjury as a sitting president was very serious, despite how much I like him. Trump's behavior towards Russia and his open colluding and his open obstruction of justice is also very, very troubling, far more than lying about a blowjob, I might add. But I digress. So to your specific question in terms of how I responded to that incident, once again, like I said, I knew that he was not going to be charged with conspiracy, but it's very telling that even in the confines of that memo, which is ridiculous in my opinion, is that it says very specifically that he is not exonerated from obstruction of justice. And that's coming from the only quote that he actually used from Bob Mueller. And here's a attorney general that doesn't think that you can even obstruct justice as a sitting president. So, bottom line, release the damn report. Now, he claims he's going to. That's great. I understand that some things have to be redacted. I get that.
What, Rick? Rick, what needs to be redacted in your opinion?
Well, there has to be certain things that has to be redacted that could reveal testimony from people that need to be protected, that could reveal things that could unveil how we do things from a national security aspect. There's certain things that can't necessarily be public. I get that. But anything that in terms of the president's behavior and things that he did, we need to know about. And also, just by the way,
what about grand jury testimony, Rick? Do you think grand jury testimony should be redacted or not?
I don't know. It depends on the circumstances. I'm not an attorney. I'm
just letting you know. I know neither am I. But you can't release. The legal statutes say you cannot release grand jury testimony. That's a very sanctioned place in our culture and our legal system.
And I don't. I'll be honest with you. You seemed you know a little bit more about that than I do, and that's great. I don't know. Bottom line, whatever can be released. I don't want William Barr to do anything other than the absolute empirical truth that everyone that's in public office would agree on. So, you can't release that. That's what I want. That's it. As an American citizen, that's what I'm asking for. But I am not sitting here thinking to myself that this president is innocent of, quote-unquote, colluding with Russia. And it's also worth mentioning that...
Wait, can you just say that again a little bit slowly? Because I think you contradicted what you previously said.
No. I'm talking about when you're conspiring directly with the Kremlin to overthrow an election. That is a very serious, specific crime of conspiracy. His behavior, as egregious as it was, it doesn't negate the fact that he might not have, or apparently did not, or at least was not caught doing that specifically. But he very much colluded with Russia on a multitude of levels, especially the people around him. And that's both Paul Manafort and that's also his son, and that is him. And even him denying and protecting and lying on behalf of Putin I'm talking about after he was president. Yeah, it could have been Russia. It could have been a 700-pound guy on his couch in Baltimore when we know that it was Russia directly. But he never would say it. When he stood on the stage next to Putin in Helsinki, and said that he takes his word over our own intelligence agencies, that is, in a sense, treacherous. And it's also collusion because he is empowering Putin and his propaganda. He did the same thing when he spread propaganda about the Soviet Union and Afghanistan. He is very much, something is not right. And I guarantee you, this report is not going to be flattering in the least.
Okay, so I'm still confused now. So do you think the president colluded with the Russians, or do you not? I want to know where do you stand on the record? You flip-flopped already twice in this 20-minute conversation.
No. There is a difference in colluding versus full-blown conspiracy. That's why collusion is not a. That's why that's not a charge that you put on someone, because it has to have. That's just sort of the skeleton of something. You have to peel back that onion and see how specific those deeds were. I would sit here and tell you that I think Helsinki was colluding with the Russians. When you're standing on stage and you're throwing your own intelligence agencies,
I disagree with that.
When you're standing on the world stage and you're throwing your own country and your own intelligence agency under the bus to take the word of a brutal dictator and saying that you believe that he didn't have anything to do with it, that is colluding with Russia. It is empowering Putin and his propaganda.
Well, that's your opinion. Those were two leaders. They were negotiating for world peace.
Let's go back to your statement. That is going to be the excuse for everything this president did. The way he talked about love letters with Chairman Chim and lied on behalf of him about the brutal murder of a young American student. He's just trying to bring peace to North Korea. That's right, because that's exactly how you do diplomacy. You stand on the world stage and you lie on behalf of a dictator and throw your own agency and own country under the bus. But it's okay because of the bigger picture. That's not how that works. And by the way, he doesn't even have the results to prove that any of those tactics were worth it anyway, not with Russia and certainly not with North Korea. But I would also say, when you have Paul Manafort, as you brought him up, and let me just say this too. This whole thing about the Russian government, that he didn't have, I think this, what is the language? hold on, I have it right here. The investigation did not establish the members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government and election interference. It's very specific. Conspired or coordinated. I accept both of those because this is the only thing really from Mueller with the Russian government. I accept that as well. But Putin doesn't run. I mean, he's like running this thing like the mafia, man. He has people that are oligarchs that are doing all kinds of unsavory shit for him, and they're not necessarily like state actors. It's just it's all still about Putin. It all comes back to him. So I'm curious to see what that report shows in terms of who was kind of working with who and where. And and by the way, when you have a president who welcomed the aid of a hostile foreign government on the stage to help him in the election and call for them to hack Hillary Clinton's emails. Now that might not be illegal, but it sure as the hell should be. Okay, let's move on from that. So let me ask you this.
Stick to the you went on and on and on. You were all over the place. You about Chairman Kim. You about Putin. We just stick to the report, and then we can get off the topic of the report.
That's
and you were talking about William Barr and his report, and you were questioning that. Can I just I just want to make two comments on this. First of all,
it's not the William Barr report. It's the memo that's completely in conjunction with the Mueller report, and then you brought up the fact that it's okay that Trump lied on behalf of a dictator because it was for diplomacy, and it just brought up he's also doing that with Chairman Kim, and I just find that an incredibly
So let me just get back to you questioned the report, and you called it the Barr report. I'm not sure.
The Barr memo.
The Barr memo. I just want to make sure that you and your audience are aware of a few facts. First of all, Mueller, to his credit, remained pretty much silent in those 2.5 years of this investigation. However, upon multiple smoking guns being reported falsely by the media that this is it, this proves collusion.
Give me one example of something that was falsely reported. I'm not saying that there are things that were not.
I can
give me one.
I'll refer you to a website.
Give me one. You can't give me one? That's fine. Go ahead.
Wait, just you want me to give you one what?
Give me an example of something reporting something or smoking gun that wasn't true. I'm not saying that there wasn't. The media got some stuff wrong here and there, man. It happens. And that's also the powerful thing about Trump.
How about Trump directed Michael Cohen to lie to Congress? How about the fact that the media, Congress, you told me that Michael Cohen went to Helsinki?
That's not
those were reported 24 hours ad nauseum. 24 hours.
First of all, what it's not ad nauseum.
True.
First of all, what you're talking about is the dossier. Okay?
You asked me to give you two examples of where the media got it wrong.
What the media was reporting in the regard of the dossier were things that were in the dossier. Now, you want to go down the dossier list of things that the dossier got right? Now, I'm just asking. You just asked me to give you one example. I gave you two. I actually believe that. Yeah, I'm challenging one of the examples. I actually believe Michael Cohen's latest testimony when he was under oath going to prison. I think he's a lying snake. But he goes. It's the test. It's also a testimony to Trump's judgment because he's surrounding himself with all these people, with drifters and frauds and criminals and everything. That's his MO. This was his personal attorney for what, 12 years, right?
So what exactly do you believe about his latest testimony that you now believed? When he said he never went to Helsinki, do you believe that?
I know, yeah. When he says he didn't go to Prague, I believe he didn't go to Prague, and I believe that's probably going to end up being one of the things that might not be accurate in the dossier. I never said the dossier was the Bible, but there are a lot of things in the dossier that have been proven correct. A lot of things. And the right-wing media, especially on Fox News, you'll never hear that. Contacts between Trump and Trump's team in Russia, correct.
That's funny that you say that a lot of things in the dossier is proven correct when the director of the FBI in sworn testimony to Congress said that the dossier could not be verified.
Not the entire.
And not only that, the actual Steele himself in sworn testimony in Great Britain said he didn't know if it was correct, maybe 50-50. But how come you, Rick Shew, know this to be 100% correct when a director of the FBI couldn't say that?
What did I do? What did I just say was 100% correct?
You said you are confident that there are many things in the dossier that are correct. You said you are very confident.
And do you want a couple? You want a couple of examples of things that were out in the dossier? The dossier revealed that Trump had real estate dealings in Russia. And he was lying about that, and now we know that he did. We know about the Moscow hotel thing that was still going on.
Do you think any American doesn't think that Donald Trump, one of the biggest builders in New York and the world, doesn't have dealings in Russia?
Okay, but that's you can say that, and that's fine. But the bottom line is this: is that he was lying about it. He covered it up to the
really.
Yes, absolutely. Because you do want to. I will slice in footage of him during 2015 and even after he was president. I have no dealings in Russia. I don't have any things going on in Russia. I don't have any deals in Russia. I've got nothing pending in Russia. I haven't done anything in Russia other than the pageant or whatever. And as it turns out, that was lies. He very specifically had a Moscow deal for hotels that he was working on extensively, and he covered that up and he lied to the American people about it, and that's a fact.
He has plenty of dealings.
It doesn't matter. He lied about it. That's the point, and the dossier uncovered that. He also talked about the dossier also talked about Mike Flynn's paid trip to Moscow, which was also true. Now, the Michael Cohen thing to Prague, when Cohen said under oath that he did not go to Prague on that last congressional testimony, I said, you know what? That's a fuck up. He didn't go to Prague. Because I believe that testimony. So I'm not saying the dossier is perfect, but the dossier also wasn't the catalyst for this investigation, which is something people like you like to say, and that's just not true. But
how do you know it's not true?
Because of the timeline on it. I'm going to walk you through Chris Wallace. This is Chris Wallace on Fox News 2 weeks ago, and I actually typed up this quote here because I knew that you were going to bring this up when you talk about the dossier. Okay. I know this is going to drive some of our viewers nuts. The Trump investigation did not start with the FISA warrant and Carter Page and even the dossier. It started in June and July of 2016 when George Papadopoulos had spoken to a Russian agent and spoke to an Australian diplomat and said that he had heard that information and had dirt on Hillary Clinton. That's when the investigation started. So it wasn't October, it was September, it was in July, and it was George Papadopoulos. That's from Chris Wallace correcting one of his guests, and he's absolutely correct. That's when it started. Do you dispute those claims? Because you like to say a lot that it's all because of the dossier and it's all phony and that's where it all started.
What I am saying is that I'm not going to speculate. Right now there is a district attorney out in Utah that is conducting a 1-year plus investigation of the FISA warrants and whether there was any abuse by the FBI. There is Michael Horowitz's report on anything that nefarious went on within the Justice Department. I'm going to defer any statements to those two pending reports.
And that's completely fantastic. And I'm all for that. And if they discover something, if they discover anything nefarious with anyone, I don't care who it is. I want to know. But the large problem with this whole dossier thing is all chronological, man. The FBI began that investigation in the middle of 2016. It didn't result from the shock of Trump's victory, and it wasn't because of the dossier.
So can I ask you a question on this line of thinking? First of all, you left one little sentence out when you were reading the actual 4-page Barr report. It was that last part of the sentence that you kind of cut off.
I didn't cut off anything, Doug. It's 4 pages. I just read a little bit.
Finish your sentence? May I finish your sentence for the audience?
I don't need accusations that I did something intentional to cover something.
I don't think you did it intentionally.
You want to make a point? Make a point. Make a point. I didn't leave anything out.
As noted above, the special counsel did not find that the Trump campaign or anyone associated with it conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in these efforts. Here's the part that CNN always seems to leave out. Here's the part MSNBC always seems to leave out. The little part that came after the comma, and I'm going to say it very slowly so your audience can digest it and it can sink in and can eat them up from the inside. Despite
when you lecture people not to name call and curse, but you're going to be a condescending person.
I'm not cursing. I'm not name calling. I'm reading a report.
Say fuck, fuck, bong, fuck, fuck, fuck. Fuck is better than being condescending like you're being right
cursing.
Now. All right.
I'm just reading a sentence.
Great. Your Sunday school teacher will appreciate that you're not cursing, but you're being intellectually condescending. So go ahead, please.
Despite multiple offers from Russian-affiliated individuals to assist the Trump campaign. That's the only last part of the sentence that I wanted to include because it seems to be left out by most CNN, MSNBC, mainstream media reporting, and your previous statement. I wanted to include that. Secondly, I wanted to point out that William Barr and Robert Mueller are very good friends. They go back 20 years.
So what?
That Robert Mueller has shown that if anything was egregiously reported by the media, he will make a public statement to correct the record.
Do you realize that people in the Mueller for the first time in 2 years are leaking? And they're leaking right now because they're not happy.
How do you know they're leaking?
Because
how
do
you know they're leaking? How do you know?
Because you're right. I don't know. I didn't. How do you know anything if you weren't there? How do you know?
Because
you want to play that game? How do you know anything? How do you know Abe Lincoln was real? Come on, don't start that BS with me.
You want me to answer your question? You just asked me a question. Am I allowed to answer it?
They are leaking right now. And
am I allowed to answer your question?
They are not happy with what's being how it was framed by William Barr. But go ahead.
Your question was, I asked you, how do you know they are leaking like crazy? And I said to you, how do you know? And my answer to that is, how many times are unnamed sources been mentioned by the New York Times and Washington Post been proven to be false? Many. I can give you a list. I just gave you a list of the Michael.
I understand that you have Googled a list. And
I don't have to Google any list.
And anybody,
respected journalism at this point in the game with matters so important are going to stop with the unnamed sources. You know why? Because at some point, the New York Times may actually... Wait, I'll let you... Just give me 30 more seconds.
But do you know what unnamed sources are?
At some point, the New York Times may actually have real news to report. But the trouble is, nobody's going to believe them anymore.
That's right. You're right. No one's going to believe them except for the 35% of Americans that follow a president that claims that the media is fake and the enemy of the people, which not only is an incredibly irresponsible statement, especially it doesn't matter how many threats and bombs are sent to he doesn't care. He does it anyway. And the vast
talking about that guy that was arrested at the lunatic?
And the vast majority of reporting that he calls fake is not fake. Oh. And his tactic is this, and it's real easy. This is it's a real simple formula that he's doing here that he follows, is that you call everything fake, you hammer it in, it's all fake, 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 and if they slip one time, if someone screws up a story, if someone gets something wrong, and it is essentially fake news, you can say, see, it's all fake. It can be 30 things that were reported and one, and that's his tactic. He has set this up where they cannot fuck up at all, because if they do, it reinforces that everything is fake news. Because the vast majority of the things that he reports about fake news is not fake news. It's things that he actually has said and done and continues to do. He lies more than anybody I have ever seen in public office. And I find the irony of that is that the American people, a lot of really great people, including yourself, voted for this man as a leap of faith and rolled the dice and said, I'm going to go with a non-politician. And they did that. And the irony is they brought on someone that lies more than any politician I've ever seen in my life. And I'm 44 years old. And I'm going to ask you a question, and then we're going to change the subject. You often tell me privately, and I'm not going to reveal all of our private conversations because that's BS. But I will ask you this. You have told me that, and I've put this on Facebook, so I'm okay to say this, that you don't really like Trump, that you aren't defending the person, you just like his policies. Do you stand by that statement?
100%. And can I tell you why?
Yes, but if you don't mind, in a moment, and I'll ask this question, then roll the answer into this. But all this stuff that we're discussing, because I want to get into North Korea with you. I want to get into tariffs. I want to get into trade wars. I want to get into the tax cuts. I want to get into the economy. But Doug, you spend all your time defending. You were defending
what?
You were defending Charlottesville on Facebook today. You're defending.
Oh, you want to go to Charlottesville?
I'm saying
that can be a whole show itself.
I will gladly go to
last episode. I can take you sentence by. I wanted the last episode. I wanted to take the transcript and go sentence by sentence,
and I will
expose how you and the media continuously lie on that press conference.
You were, and I'll say again, and you just called me a liar. So there you go, right? I haven't name called you, but you just called me a liar. The bottom line is this: I'm not lying about anything, and I'll go through Charlottesville. I will gladly walk through Charlottesville with you. I will 100% do that, and I will do that on this show. But my point is this: is that you are not defending the policy of this president. You are defending this abhorrent behavior and these constant lies, and you defend everything. You defend Charlottesville. You're defending the way he talks about North Korea.
What is there not to defend in Charlottesville?
You defend everything.
What am I defending?
You're defending his lies. You are repeating his own.
What exactly am I defending with
the fact that the fact that you're defending anything about Charlottesville? That is one of the most disgusting episodes I've ever seen with an American president in my life.
But what? What are you talking about?
Because you are equating people. There were people there. Yes, Doug, you are equating people that were there protesting Nazis and people that are frickin' Nazis. And you are saying that they are one and the same, that on both sides. You know what both means, Doug? It means two. That's it.
Both means two. Okay.
Two things. Good, fine people on both sides. There was one side that was Nazis. There was one side protesting Nazis. That's it. That's what that means. And you equated them as an American president 24 hours after they had murdered a young girl who was a protester and ran over her in a car. And you have one side of the group that's emulating the slicing of throats of black Americans, the murder of Jews, chanting that Jews will not take over America, to people that are protesting said Nazis. And maybe some of those people protesting came to pick a fight, and we can point those out and say, hey, listen, you're not doing us any favors to do this, but you don't, as an American president, equate those two sides, and that's exactly what he did. And he's done this. He's played coy with white nationalism since he was running for office, whether pretending like he didn't know who David Duke was, to retweeting white supremacist tweets left and right. That has been his MO. You want to defend that? You want to defend the indefensible? Or do you want to say to me that was wrong and it coincides with your comments that this is not a good person and you want to just get into policy? Or do you want to defend the character of this man? It's your call. I can go either way. You just want to get into policy, or do you want to continue to talk about the character? Do you want to defend Charlottesville on this show? Tell me.
Are you done? Are you finished?
I just asked you a question.
Okay. I feel like saying, after hearing your emotional involvement in that, I feel like just saying, hallelujah, yes, what a racist. But I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to ask your audience to go to the YouTube press conference.
You want to defend Charlottesville?
Am I allowed to talk? I didn't interrupt you. You probably went on about 4 minutes.
You want to defend Charlottesville?
Like a sermon.
Defend Charlottesville.
Defend Charlottesville. Are you going to defend Charlottesville, where he said he equated? Those were some good people on the other side. Okay, I'll give you about 4 minutes of filibustering. Can I have a chance to talk, being that I'm a guest on your show?
Absolutely, you have a chance to talk as a guest on my show. Please do.
Okay. If you go to the YouTube coverage of that press conference, at 8:21 timestamp in that press conference, President Trump specifically says the night before, when there were peaceful protesting by good people protesting the removal of Robert E. Lee's statue, he was speaking about, before the violence, there is video evidence that shows there was a peaceful protest. The people of Charlottesville were protesting the taking down of a Robert E. Lee statue. I have no comment either way. Robert E. Lee was the head of the Confederate Army. I'm a Jew from New York. Obviously, I am for the principles of this country. I'm against racism. However, racism is a stain on our country. Removing the statues does not remove the stain. So it's very questionable, and it's up for debate whether you want to take down all these statues and symbols that represent a stain on this country. You can't erase history, okay?
You don't have to erase history.
I'm not done. I'm not done. I'll give you a chance to rebut my point in a second.
You put them in museums.
I will put them in museums. Then put them in museums.
Go ahead.
I actually do agree with that, by the way. If it is offensive to some people, put it in museums. But people have a right to say they don't want them in museums. They want. I personally, that's a great point. I agree these statues belong in museums. See, we agree. But I also agree that people have a right to protest peacefully and say to the government, I don't want them in museums. I want to stay. Those people were conducting a peaceful protest. And at 8:21 in that press conference, Trump specifically said there were good people protesting. At 10:59 in that press conference, he clarified that you had 5 people in that group protesting the taking down of the Robert E. Lee statue and renaming a park. Again, he was referring to the peaceful protesters. He was not referring to the Nazi marchers.
Doug, there were people.
I don't know what else to say, but
Marty,
much you twisted this, and you twisted everything in that press conference.
No,
I will
Doug.
do a whole show with you.
I didn't twist. I didn't twist anything, and I will gladly address that. He said very specifically there were people there, Doug, neo-Nazis marching the streets of a American city that were chanting that Jews aren't going to take over America. I don't have the quotes in front of me, but saying all kinds of horrific things that were emulating Nazism.
Absolutely.
And they were there marching, and they had murdered a young girl.
The murder was the next day.
And he said that there were Doug, a girl got ran over during the whole incident. It was the next day that he gave the press conference, and I'm referring to.
The next day was in the afternoon. The girl, I don't know, it either was the night before. It doesn't matter. I'll just tell you what does matter.
The thing is this.
Wait.
I know, listen, you know what's really crazy? I know people that defend Trump a lot, and they don't defend this.
I'm not defending Trump. I'm defending inaccuracies.
It's not inaccuracy, Doug.
Okay, is this
very fine people on both sides? Okay. Both sides. That's two. That's Nazis. People protesting Nazis. He's equating them. Let's move on.
Wait.
He's 100% equating them, and it's not in a vacuum. These comments there's a history of his coyness with white supremacy. He's even right now, currently in real time, downplaying the rise of white supremacy and violence of right-wing fascist white supremacist.
What?
And no, he absolutely is.
I just want to point out something.
And it is something that is a problem with this president.
It's a problem that you have with this president based on inaccurate beliefs.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Wait. I just want to state one more statement from that famous press conference, and then I'm done with that press conference. If your audience cares to really know the truth and not be jaded by how you interpret it or even how I interpret it, I ask them to go look at the press conference themselves and make their own interpretation.
You know what a sitting president does in a situation like that, Doug?
Hold on 1 second.
You stand up and you say
what? How about
you denounce that so passionately?
Yes.
And you denounce that to the point of
denounce what? Denounce
unequivocal. White supremacy, Nazis marching the streets. And you don't equate it to people protesting the Nazis.
Hey, Rick,
because all that was some bullshit way to try to get Antifa to say that that's the left version of this, that's the right version of this, because that's what he does. That is an egregious episode of an American president. Period. Let's move on from Charlottesville.
I didn't finish my last.
Make your last point. I'm gonna actually give you the last word on this, and I'll let our audience decide how they feel about American president equating Nazis and people protesting Nazis. Be my guest, please.
Okay, you just stated to me that the president should unequivocally denounce the neo-Nazis in that march. How about audience? Go to the press conference, witness it yourself. Fast forward the YouTube tape to 11 minutes and 59 seconds. And I'm going to quote the President of the United States. Now, you had many people in that group. Now, and I put this in capital letters, I'm not talking about neo-Nazis or white nationalists, because those people should be condemned. That was a quote
Thank you. Those people, no, those were the vast majority of people on that side.
What happened to me getting the last word?
How many sides?
To me getting the last word?
Okay, call me a liar on this one. I'm going to ask you a quick question. I lied on that one.
Last word.
I'm not giving you the last. I'll give you the last word, but I'm going to make this last point, and then I promise. And then I promise to give you the last word. Give me the definition of the word both. Give that to me real quick, and then you have the last word.
Both is two people, two sides.
Two sides. Thank you. Go ahead. Make your point.
Yes.
Make your point.
He was referring to the peaceful protesters the night before, where they were taking down a statue and renaming a park in these people's towns. This was before it got violent. He never equated the neo-Nazis marching with the left-wing protesters. You did that. The media did that. You tried to pull the wool over America's eyes, but I have news for you. 63 million people watched that news conference and know the truth. Now I'm ready to move on.
Okay, I'll bite my tongue and I'll give you the last word, but I beg Americans to watch that video. Thank you for that point. Okay, Doug. So let me ask you this. You say all the time, I don't like this guy. I like his policies. But again, you constantly defend him. If you constantly defend his endless lies, and I mean, Doug, I'm talking, this guy lies like nobody I've ever seen in my life. He lies when he doesn't even have to lie. He just makes things up constantly, and he owns it and doubles down and triples down, quadruples down. Now, someone that says that he doesn't like him, would you agree with that assessment, or do you want to defend how much he lies? I'm just curious.
To tell you the truth, I don't really care if politicians lie or not. Obama lied plenty of times. Many politicians lie. I care about the United States, the policies put forth by the president, if they help the United States or not. On that note, do you think the term, the four-letter term, "Make America Great Again," do you think that's a nice term or a bad term? Make America great again. What do you think about that?
I'm glad you brought that up. When was America great? When was
America great? Did you just say that? When?
Yeah. Are you
the governor of New York colluding here? When was America great?
What? I'm asking you as a person that likes that term. When was America great?
How about when it was the United States that stood alone to prevent the world from being taken over by Nazis and imperialist Japan? The United States and England were the backstop that prevented the world. Do you think that was great? I personally do. I personally love my country. I think there are a lot of blemishes on this country.
Oh, I know. I love my country too. I love my country.
I would never ask another American, when was this country great?
I love, you know what? I still think that this country is great. So I don't say make America great again, because that's implying that it's not great now. And you know what? I think it is. Despite the fact that I don't like who's in the White House, I still think this country is great. So don't lecture me about loving my country, because by virtue of that statement, you don't love it now, or you don't think it's great now. Because to make it great again, because I have to make sure that these words are resonating with you, whether it's both, which means two, or whether it's again, means it's not that way now. So you tell me, when was America great? And why isn't it now? And how is Trump making it great again? That is on you, not me.
The point of the matter is the president wants to retain America's role as the leader, the moral leader in the world.
The moral leader. This is the most. He's the most immoral, unethical person that's ever held that office. So how can you say that? How can you say that?
How can I say what?
How can you say that this president is trying to uphold the moral authority of America? What does that even mean with this guy?
The United States has done more to liberate third world countries and people that are impoverished than any other nation in the history of the world. Let's take a look at our great congressman from Michigan. She was a Somalian refugee. Her parents were brutalized by the extremist regime. We took her into this country. We do that. We
did do that. We have a president right now that wanted to ban Muslims from entering the country. That also is also Doug. Yes, really? He's on record very specifically.
I think Indonesia has one of the highest Muslim populations in the entire
Okay,
planet.
anybody listen to this?
Was that country on the Muslim ban, Rick? I don't think so.
Do you want to do you want to dissect
Muslims if the largest country of Muslims in the world was not on that list?
Do you want to dissect the Muslim ban? Are we going to go down this road? He very specifically said that he wants to ban all Muslims from entering the country, and he said that
he laid out as 7 countries that was on
no,
Obama's
Doug,
list.
Wait a minute. Stop. That was a year later after he was president. When he was on his crusade, with whether it was birtherism, whether it was lying about Muslims, cheering in the streets of New Jersey after 9/11, when he's on record as sitting as a candidate for president saying Islam hates us, or when he's talking about Donald Trump is calling for the ban of Muslims entering the United States, very specifically. Later, he can't, as a sitting president, it's unconstitutional to try to ban a religion. His own attorney, Rudy Giuliani, admitted on national television that Trump basically came to him and said, all right, how do we make a Muslim ban legal? And they did the best they could and banned as many Muslim countries as they could. But it doesn't negate the fact. It doesn't negate because Indonesia doesn't have any terrorist threats at all coming from it, so they couldn't do it legally. It doesn't negate the fact that he said that. It doesn't negate the fact that he said that. He is on record right now. He is on record saying right now that our country is full, that asylum seekers, we can't even take asylum seekers because the country is full, Doug. The country's full. We're implementing no tolerance policies to separate children from their families just so we can try to curtail people entering this country. That's his MO. He has a history of this. Okay, he attacked the Khan family. He attacked the Khan family, who is a family whose son gave the absolute sacrifice of this country, and he cannot take an iota of criticism and has to insult them because that's how petty and small he is. Meanwhile, George Bush, who's a man whose presidency I did not like, I'm not going to ever pretend like I like George Bush's presidency, but as a person, Bush was a patriot and he was a human. And think about the way he treated Cindy Sheehan, who, I think that's her name, and forgive me if I got that wrong, but a woman that was crusading against him, was camping out at his wherever his ranch is in Texas. I'm going blank. And he made sure to make sure she was taken care of and she was treated. This guy can't keep his mouth shut about anyone who says anything negative about him. Went after her for being a Muslim woman, probably because she has to be quiet because her husband makes her. He has a history of his Islamophobic statements, Doug. And again, when you talk about, I don't like the guy, but I like his policies, but you will constantly defend him. This is what I'm talking about. He called for a Muslim ban, Doug. Are you denying that?
I'm denying that.
Okay, you're denying that. That's fine. Okay, let's move on from that because again, there's nothing I can say.
That we actually do agree upon that. I think a lot of the things he says is ridiculous, divisive, idiotic, asinine. We do agree. That's the point I'm making. I do not personally like him as a human because he can be very divisive. However, I care about this country and his policies. And his policies are putting America first. Okay. Do you think there's a problem at the southern border, Rick? Do you think there's a crisis at the southern border? I'm just asking you.
I'll answer the. Hey, calm down, dude. I'll answer the question. I'm not backing off from answering the question. Let me tell you this: when Trump took office, we were at a 40, 50-year low of border crossings. Okay, that's a fact. For 2 years, he held all 3 chambers of government. He had it all, right? His main campaign promise was a border wall and immigration. For 2 years, he could not get his wall. He could not get it, and he had the House, the Senate, and he had the White House. He could not get his wall.
You are going to respond to this, right?
Hold on. No, of course I will.
Thank you.
Then, after 2 years, and then the Democrats in their blue wave in 2018 take back the House. Now, all of a sudden, there's this national emergency because Congress won't approve his wall. And so now we have an abuse of power where we're actually redirecting funds to something that Congress turned down, that you didn't get your own Congress to pass for you the 2 years that you had all three chambers of government. So now here we are. And now with funding cut off to Central American countries and things awry in various countries, it's being proposed that he's wanting to cut off funding to Central America, which is going to just make the problem worse. So let me revise that statement. But you have a crisis right now that's going on with Central American families that are coming over here and they're trying to seek asylum. And his whole thing is, go away, the country's full. Don't come here. And he's calling it an invasion. An invasion. These are.
I don't care what it's called. I just asked you a simple question.
These are. Hold on. It's not a simple question. It's not a simple question. It's not a simple question. What we have right now is a humanitarian crisis at the southern border. We absolutely do.
Thank you.
100%.
So there is a crisis at the southern border.
Absolutely. Right now there is 100%.
Okay, 100,000 people crashed the southern border in March alone. That was a record number.
Right, on Trump's watch. Okay. This has all happened on Trump's watch.
So I'm going to ask you a question, Rick.
Did he inherit a 50-year low on border crossings or not? Did he?
Absolutely.
Okay, just making sure. Go ahead.
Okay. What do you think we should do about it?
Well, there's a lot of things that we can do about it, and what we shouldn't do about it, Doug, is we certainly shouldn't cut off funds to Central American countries that need it, and that's what he's proposing.
Okay.
We also need to talk about realistic proposals. His whole thing with the border wall, and Doug, I'm not saying that there's not parts on the border that possibly couldn't use more fencing and whatever. I mean, it's not like this is anything new. But this notion that you're going to build a wall in the Gulf of Mexico, and it's ridiculous.
No one's ever said that. No one's looking to build a wall, a 3,500 foot, a 3,500
Well, first of all, not only is he campaign on it, but it was brought up again today. But again, you're denying things the man says, like word for word. So what's the point of even getting into that? But we need a lot more resources, and we need some. We also need some humanity right now. And we need judges down there. We need to be processing these people. We need to be helping as many as we can. We can't bring in everybody. It's terribly sad. But he started off his entire campaign on the dehumanization of immigrants.
Maybe instead of fighting, let's try to have an adult conversation and try to find something that we think can be done. We both agree there is a crisis at the southern border. Okay?
There's a humanitarian crisis at the southern border, yes.
100,000 people have tried to crash our border in March. That's overwhelmed the system. An asylum case takes about 5 years to adjudicate. It's not happening. The system is broken. And now the cartels have all figured out just what the right things to say. And our law says that if you claim asylum, we have to grant you that. So I agree. They should bringing the judges down is not going to solve the crisis alone. What else should be done? You say we should be more humanitarian. We don't have enough places. What are we going to do? There's a crisis.
Well, Doug, I don't have all the answers to this, but one thing we do not need to do is have Stephen Miller making any calls about how we handle immigration on our border.
What do you think?
We don't need Steve. We don't need Steve.
Doug,
would you quit trying so hard to make this a gotcha thing?
I don't have a gotcha. I have some ideas.
It's not working.
I actually have some ideas that are supported by the president and the Department of Homeland Security. I think are very good.
But right now he is, and I hope it's deemed unconstitutional. The way that he has abused the national emergency clause. And if not, then hold on to your head.
The president has a right to declare an emergency for almost any reason. Many presidents Many
president has ever had a call to national emergency to get money for something that Congress. Let me finish. There's never been a sitting president that has called a national emergency to get funds for something that Congress denied. Especially considering that they just come off their 2 years of having all three chambers of government, and they could not happen then. So don't give me this that it's okay that it's a national emergency.
Of course it is.
And I hope that I didn't say it was a national emergency. I said there's a humanitarian crisis at the border.
How many people
okay,
should we let in?
Doug, that's happening now. Okay? Now.
Are illegally allowed into the country. So the biggest problem with immigration, the biggest problem is that it affects the population of our country more than anything else. So 1 million people a year are legally allowed to enter this country. What number should that be? What do you think? 2 million?
I don't have a specific number. Do you want to get into the contribution to illegal immigration? Do you want to get into the constant lies of dehumanization of immigration?
Very fine, high educated, business starting immigrants, but there are also a lot of immigrants.
What? There's a lot of highly educated. That's not even what I'm talking about. I'm talking about. Let me ask you a question. Let me just ask you a question. Okay, if we deported every quote unquote illegal human being in this country right now, what would happen to our economy? What would happen to the hospitality business?
No,
what would happen? There's several industries.
I don't think we should do that. So I don't know.
Okay, then great. So I'm glad that you feel that way.
A moot point.
It's not a moot point. It's an important point because people talk about it all the time. It's an important point.
At the southern border, and
our economy would crash. By the way. Just FYI. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying the asylum system is broken. The border system is broken. You mentioned he had 3 houses of the government was controlled by Republicans, and he couldn't get it done. The reason that is because there were plenty of Republicans that hated Trump and would not vote for him. And you needed a 60-vote supermajority.
What happened to art of the deal, man? The biggest deal maker ever, man, ever. Couldn't get his wall with all 3 chambers of government. Then he couldn't get it with Nancy Pelosi. Then he calls a national emergency, which is bullshit. And then he's now redirecting funds in what I hope is an unconstitutional way. And if it's not, then hell hath no fury than a Democratic president that's hell-bent on getting some kind of vindication for what they consider to be an egregious action by a president. Because it's going to come, and I don't want it, man. I don't want even something as close to my heart as climate change and gun legislation to come through via national emergency because President Trump set this standard. But that's what's going to happen. And just be prepared for that is all I'm saying. Listen, there's a humanitarian crisis on the border. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of things that we need to do. And there might even be places that we need more wall and barriers. I'm not denying that. But what we have right now in the White House between Trump and Stephen Miller and even still Steve Bannon in Trump's ear is not humane. It's not. It lies about immigrants. It lies about their contribution to the economy. And that is the most vile and disgusting thing about this whole process.
Well, let me just tell you some of the ideas.
A person like yourself that I believe, Doug, I believe that you're a good person. Again, I believe that you're a good person. And so I would love to hear your views on this because I also know that you live in New York and you're no dummy. You live in New York. I live in Dallas. We live in 2 cities that are very much enhanced by immigration and people here doing jobs that most Americans won't do. I talk about this all the time. I've been in the restaurant business for 25, 30 years. I can count on one hand how many times an American, white, black, even Hispanic American, I say even meaning that I just want to make sure I'm covering everybody here. Everybody that is an American citizen, the vast majority of people that came in to apply for a busboy job, non-American citizen. There's some, that's not just anecdotal. There's something to that. They're doing the jobs that we don't want to do, period. And that's what I don't like. And the vast majority of them are here, and I think you'll agree with me on this, are good people that are here to better themselves for their families. Doug, you love your kids, right?
Rick, there's no doubt. If I was living in these impoverished countries, I would try to get to the United States also.
100%.
100%. I think you would too.
You and I would
there are 5 billion people on the planet. We can't take them all in.
I agree with you.
Our system is broken. We can't have 100,000 people a month crashing our borders.
I don't disagree with that.
Again, I'm not equating the man with the policies. Some of the policies being put forth by the Border Patrol and the people, now even people on that were Jay Johnson, I think was Obama's border security, Department of Homeland Security. He even said there's an emergency on the southern border. So I think
of course there is.
Needs to be done.
There is now, for sure, yeah.
We need to get FEMA involved, set up places to put these people out, get more people. I also think that he should declare an executive order, a 3-month moratorium on asylum in the United States. Stop it. Give at least 3 months to catch up. Get the judges down there to try to adjudicate the cases. But when it gets, then every asylum seeker now that comes to the United States gets across the border, the president's going to say, we are stopping asylum for 3 months in this country till we get this under control. Then the word is going to get back into their home countries that they cannot come to the United States. Or they should impose a system such as Canada has, that if you're seeking asylum, the first country you come to, you have to ask for asylum. You can't walk through Mexico saying you're being oppressed just to get to the United States. That's how Canada has it. We need to do something in those veins. And you're going to hear that policy being put forth in the next few weeks. Again, I ask you and your listeners to try to separate the man, who I know you hate and despise and it consumes you totally, from the policies.
Okay, again, this has been since the top of this show. You're playing the good guy. I just want an adult conversation, but then you make these sly little comments. You know, come on. Now it's cute and it's funny, but let's just drop the shtick here and let's just get raw and real. All right. I don't like the man for valid reasons, and I don't like the dehumanization of immigrants. I don't like the lies about immigration. I don't like the lies about contributions. I don't like the way he launched his campaign by lying about immigrants. That most Mexicans that were being sent here by Mexico, which is a ridiculous notion that the Mexican government is sending people, but that's another conversation, were primarily rapists and bad people. And that's been his thing. When he talks about how the asylum thing is a scam, that goes to the heart of like the welfare thing and the defamation of African Americans on welfare. They're just welfare queens. They don't really need the money. They're not really here. They just don't want to work. They're not really seeking asylum. It's rooted in racism. Whether you want to admit that or not, it just is. And that's what it fuels and that's what it feeds. And the people that are inherently racist, they love that talk because that's how they think. And I have a problem with that. I have firsthand watched a young Mexican or El Salvadorian young man or girl, 14 years old, can't speak a lick of English, washing dishes in some restaurant or bar, and then you wake up 15 years later and they're a $60,000, $70,000 a year kitchen manager somewhere. They speak English, they're an American citizen, they're married and they're raising their family here, and that is what I'm trying to protect. And I think that you would agree with that, right? That's something we see eye to eye on, correct? That we don't want to dehumanize those people, right?
No, we don't.
But
go ahead. They're not all those people. There are a lot of people.
It's okay.
It's okay
to say that.
Services, and our country cannot afford to put the whole world on social programs.
Doug, I'm not saying that they all are. I'm reciprocating what the president says.
Well, the Democratic line
there's a big
that
difference.
I hear all the time, and it's getting late, and I think both of our heads are spinning, is we should wrap it up, but I wanted just to say we hear this all the time from the news media, from the presidential candidates. Diversity is our strength. Diversity is our strength. I don't even know what that means. Do you agree with that? Diversity is our strength as a country? Does having a diverse marriage where two people have nothing in common, does that make a good bond? Is having classrooms filled with people that don't speak English, is that really helping our school system? What's the point here? Our school system or the whole world?
Hold on. There's a difference in some cultural differences and then language barriers. Okay? I do think it's a problem when people don't assimilate. And when I say assimilate, I don't mean a Muslim family that moves here from Saudi Arabia and they have to start dressing in a Western fashion. That's not what I mean. I'm all for free expression, no matter how it is that you want to do that, as long as it's free. If you're a woman that wants to cover her face, which I quite frankly find offensive because I feel like it's oppressing women, and I know many Muslims that I'm dear friends with that I love dearly that agree with that as well. So it's not an attack on Muslims when I say that, but I'm saying but if that's something someone genuinely wants to do, let them do it. When I say assimilate, I mean we do need to learn a language. I don't like the mantra that, learning a different language is somehow anti-American, but we do speak a language here. So I do believe in some assimilation at some point. But when I hear diversity is not our strength, it's not about not being able to understand someone from like you just can't understand their speaking. I look at that more as they're a little culturally different, and that's wrong. That black should be over here, that white should be over here, that Muslim should be over here, that the Chinese family should stay in their neighborhoods. And when you hear people like Tucker Carlson saying things like that, diversity is not our strength, that's what that's feeding into. And I think that's horrific. And so, no, I don't agree with that whatsoever. I moved to a suburb a few years ago from the city of Dallas, and I was so afraid. I didn't want my daughters growing up in a neighborhood or a school that was just all white people. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with white people. I love everybody. I'm just saying that I was so afraid of that. And we move here, and we've got this great black family living next door. We have some people from India. We've got friends that are from Pakistan that are Muslim. We've got Jewish friends. And I want my kids to grow up like that, to grow up around people that look different than they do, whose parents came from a different country than they did, who speak a second language, who eat different foods, who pray differently or whatever. That makes my kids better humans. And that is where I say
there's a place for that. It's called New York City.
Yeah, well, I love New York City, and I think that's
fine,
what.
But the point is,
diversity is our strength. Yes,
in New York, absolutely. But we need to have some control of people immigrating to this country.
I don't disagree
Trump
with that.
Is not against immigrants. He's against illegal immigration. I am against illegal immigration. There's a way to do it. I am a product. I am a son of immigrants. Most New Yorkers are. We came here legally.
Seeking asylum is legal, Doug.
Seeking asylum is legal, but abuse of the asylum system is not legal.
But it's not an overwhelming abuse of the system, and he tries to make it that way.
You don't know that.
I know it in the same way that most Mexicans that come here aren't rapists.
He never said that.
He did say that. He said it,
Go
Doug.
to the videotape on.
Mexico are sending
by the coyotes are given birth control pills as young as 10 years old because they're abused, and we are allowing this process. This process has to stop. There is a problem that's causing young families to send their little children unaccompanied with strangers to seek asylum. This is happening. Okay. Whether you agree, whether you accept it or not.
I'm not saying that.
To try to get a hand on it.
That's not why he did it, Doug. He did it because he's trying to build his vanity wall for his reelection 2020. That's why he did it. He did it because Ann Coulter called him bad names and Lou Dobbs is going after him on Fox News. That's why he did it. Okay? You don't like the character of this man. You agree with me on that. Well, I'm telling you, that's why he did it.
How do you know?
And because everything led to that, Doug. Oh. It's not hard to comprehend. And I'll say this. I don't have a problem with saying that there's problems with immigration, Doug. But when you go back to his initial comments about Mexico and people that are being sent here, and he said, and I have this basically, I don't even have this written down or typed up. This is something that's just ingrained in my brain. When he talks about Mexico are sending their worst people, and they're rapists, and they're bad people. But some, I assume, are good people. That's saying that most are rapists, most are bad. And the dehumanization of immigration is terrible, and I do not want a sitting president in charge of immigration with that kind of rhetoric and those kind of feelings and wanting more people from Norway or wherever, white countries, because he's tired of brown and black immigration. It's just disgusting. Let me ask you a couple of questions. Real quick, give me 15 more minutes. The economy, how's he doing on the economy, Doug?
He's doing great.
He's doing great? Okay.
Have you looked at your 401k lately?
My 401k was wiped out last year.
Really? That really stands in stark comparison to the overwhelming majority of the.
Well, it wasn't wiped out in the literal sense, but it was certainly not where it was supposed to have gone.
You're from Texas, right?
Hold on. Let me ask you a couple questions about the economy. The stock market kind of crashed and burned last year. I did okay on the 401k last year, but I
go up and down. I think the last I checked, it's up since President Trump took office.
Okay.
Am I wrong? I don't have the numbers in front of me.
It has been up here and there, but most of the gains.
I think it's way up since Trump took office.
Do you want to look at what happened in the last couple of months of 2018? The gains were wiped out, sir, in the stock market. So just don't ride the highs and lows. I don't think that presidents deserve as much credit as they get for the economy when it's good, or when it's bad, they deserve as much criticism. I think that presidents more or less inherit what they get.
I think this is definitely if you take away the person of President Donald Trump and you look at his policies, he is a sort of down the line, sort of conservative Republican leader.
No, he's not. Not by any means. He's not. I mean, we get his trade war and his tariffs. But here's the deal. the president constantly just derided Obama about 3% economic growth in any year, right? So last year, in 2018, we were about 2.85%. Okay? Obama had higher than that in 2015, which incidentally was his best year. Okay? That's a fact. We right now are looking at people that are experts that are pretty nervous about the rocky economy. It's unsustainable. It's the rocky aspects of the economy. We have an unsustainable tax cut.
The lowest unemployment rate, I think, in like 20 years. The lowest black unemployment rate ever.
Yes,
the lowest
all of
female
that,
unemployment
all
rate.
Of that, that's great, and all of that is great.
Median wages have gone up. They remain stagnant for the entire 8 years of the Obama economy.
No. Hold on a minute.
But you're portraying this economy as being horrible. Are you living in like a different world that I'm living in?
No, absolutely not. First of all, okay. First of all, you want to do this. You want to look at what Trump inherited in the economy and where we're at right now. It's most of these things, including black unemployment, because I like the way that gets phrased sometimes, like that black unemployment was 20%, and all of a sudden Trump came in and waved a magic wand. Now it's down to like 7 or 8%. It's the trajectory is where from the recovery from 2000. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, so it's Obama's. Obama's caused this great
Well, first of all, I can point to specific policies during the Obama administration when they took office that helped guide us out of the recession that we were just coming out of. That's fact. I can also point. Yeah, absolutely, it's a fact. I can also point at things that Trump did to kind of juice the economy up a little bit, including these tax cuts. But there's not been any sort of like Montemanial crazy shift in the economy.
Pretty much every measure of the economy, we are doing better now than we did when Obama was president.
Okay, average. Hold on, no, hold on, wait. Average monthly job growth for the last 7 years. You want to do this? I'm going to do 2012 to 2019. I'm not going to say the year to coincide, but just you can do the math. 2012 to 2019. You ready? 181,000. 192,000, 251,000, 227,000, 193, 179, 223, 2019. Right now, we're on track to do 180. Okay? That's the economy. We have a rising debt, deficits blowing up. We have no way to pay for these tax cuts. This tax cut did not go to the middle class. It did not go to poor people. It went to corporations. So the economy right now has some good flashpoints.
What does that mean? What's your point there? It went to corporations. That's called trickle down economics.
And it doesn't work because it's not trickling down. Okay. It's not trickling down, Doug, because people are not seeing it. They're not seeing it in their lives, Doug. Trickle down is a myth. It always has been.
Can I just, you call it a myth, a fantasy, but that's actually not true. These actually have real world ramifications. These tax cuts.
Where's our 4 or 5% growth, Doug? Where's our 3% growth? Where is it? I'm asking him. Where is it?
Okay, you have so much. You say so many things in one breath. I have to dissect what you said, chop out, put the second part on pause. Let me go back to what you said. We were on a trajectory. You kind of insinuated... Hey,
that's actually fair. That's fair because that's a pain in the ass, but you've been doing it to me too, just FYI.
So you kind of insinuated that the trajectory, the high trajectory of the economy was started by Obama. I can tell you point of fact that the reason the economy is doing so well is that President Trump took it on himself to basically get rid of almost every crippling economic restriction that Obama placed on businesses and corporations. He has a record of
the improvement. The economy doesn't reflect that, Doug.
Single-handedly wiped out
that's nonsense.
The entire Obama choking business economy.
Right. That's right. And right now we do. So and right. That's right. That's right.
Of Obama.
That's right. He did all that.
President Trump.
He did all that, Doug, and job growth and GDP is not even where it was at. So I'm glad that you cheerleaded for this transition. Where are the results of that, Doug?
Just stop right there.
By no metric are they there.
I'm going to give you some results.
On no metric.
Can I give you some results? You just asked me a question.
Not on numbers, not on GDP, Doug.
You just asked me a question. Can I please respond to your question? And I'm going to actually respond to it in a very way that I hope you all can understand. I'm going to use your state as an example of what the tax cuts have had effect in your state. And I just want to say, in the bigger, broader sense, this points out the difference between Republicans and Democrats. Republicans, really, we just want to be left alone. We want to government off of our backs. The Democrats want to tax, impose regulations on the people and corporations. That's the key difference between Democrats and Republicans. Democrats want to tax as much as they can to get as much money. Republicans want the government's role to be taxed as little as possible and allow businesses to make their money. I'm not done. You had like 4 minutes. I just need 3 minutes. In your state of Texas, as a result of the president's tax cuts, McDonald's spent $150 million that they directly said was because of the tax cuts on educational opportunity resources. Multiple companies, I can give you example after example. $500 bonuses was given out across the board at Camp Construction Services and Group Automotive in Texas. $1,600 bonuses were given out by Cabot Oil and Gas. All these corporations directly said these bonuses, which have real life implications to real life people, $1,600 was because of the corporate tax cuts. That's fantastic. At Cadence Bank, which I don't even know of, it's in Texas somewhere. Covestro, some Texas company that I never even heard of.
It's a federal tax cut. Why are you talking about my state?
Covestro had a choice. It must be some type of Texas company that I'm not aware of. They had a choice of investing $1.7 billion in a new facility. Their three choices was Asia, Europe, and Houston. They said the corporate CEO, only because of President Trump's tax cuts, they decided to invest the $1.7 billion in the Houston facility. These are all your state, your people having benefit from President Trump's tax cuts.
That's great, and a big round of applause for that speech, and I could say a hallelujah to that. The bottom line is this, that they claimed, the Trump administration, that Obama failed because he failed to reach 3% economic growth in any year, and they could do it with their tax cuts plus their deregulation. And I'm not, by the way, on a side note, there were some things that need to be deregulated. I actually agree with some of those decisions, just FYI. But now, the average 2018 growth stands very specifically at 2.85%. That's less than 3%. That's also less than 2.88% in 2015. That's a fact. Actual job growth has gone up some, and unemployment is going down. It's on a good trajectory, and the biggest compliment I can give is he hasn't crashed the economy yet, and I hope he doesn't. But it's unsustainable. We have a rising debt. We have tax cuts that can't get paid for. And the average American is not getting their benefit from a 36% tax cut, corporate tax cut to 21%.
I just gave you 10 example how average Americans did benefit from the tax cuts.
You're giving me examples of certain companies.
Only in your particular state. That's only in your particular state. Because I want you to pick your state out.
Doug,
from Texas.
Doug, the bottom line is there's not any metric. You're giving me anecdotal things.
Of the economy.
It's not,
the economy is better today. You can tell me whatever you want, dissect it out. By every economic indicator, the economy is better today than it was when Obama left office. I don't.
Okay, look. Why not? If you want to look, if you want to talk about Trump and Obama, why don't you look at when Obama took office versus this time in his term, when he was losing 700,000 jobs a month the day he was sworn in, and then look what he did in 2 years. If you want to compare apples to apples, I will challenge you that. I give you that Pepsi challenge any day of the week and twice on Sunday. You compare what he inherited versus where he was at in his third year of his presidency, and you do the same with Trump. And you tell me the juxtaposition of the increase in the improvements, and I'm telling you right now, it doesn't hold a water to what Obama administration could hold up.
Again,
okay? That's a fact. That's a fact.
Trump has single-handedly dismantled the entire Obama economic
and that's why we're at 5%. Oh, you're right. And that's where at 5% GDP.
How about we leave it at this? Why don't we ask the question that Reagan asked of the United States in 1980? Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And let the people decide in 2020 what they think.
And I would love to get into the the Reagan presidency. I would also love to get into the constant revolving door of this incompetent administration that cannot hold anybody. Nobody stays in the White House. Everybody leaves ugly. Anybody that's loyal to this guy, he backstabs. But it's a constant revolving door. But that's a podcast for another day. I have 2 last questions for you, then we're going to wrap this show up. Okay? A lot of candidates right now running against Trump. Okay, some I like a lot, some I think are okay, some I despise. But that's neither here or there. I'm going to vote for whoever because they're all better than him, even the ones I don't like.
I just want you to know I voted for Obama in 2008. I just want to let you know that for whatever reason it is, I just want your audience to know that I'm not some crazy right-wing Republican loon my whole life. Just in your adult years. Kid. Okay.
All right. So that's a joke. We're lighting up. All right. Let me ask you this: the people that are running right now, who makes you? Who do you fear? Who do you like? Man, I hope that person could get elected and beat Trump. Is there a person?
Who do I fear, or who do I actually like as a candidate? What's your question?
Okay, I appreciate that. I'll revise. Just who do you think could beat Trump? How's that? I'll just ask it that way. Then you can elaborate however you wish.
Well, who do I think can beat Trump? I don't think any of the greatest gift President Trump has been Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It was like she was like gift wrapped. You couldn't even ask for a better gift to the Republican Party.
Be careful what you wish for. She's a freshman congresswoman, and she inspires a lot of millennials. I'm not saying that I agree with everything, but she's not running for president. She's not running for president.
Nancy Pelosi is scared of her.
No, she's
that
not.
Congressman out in Michigan, I forgot her name, said something that was questionably anti-Semitic. There was a censuring put forth in the House of Representatives. But the Ocasio-Cortez crew had shot that down, and they watered it down. Nancy Pelosi was scared of the socialists that are rising in your party.
Well, let's get back to your question. Trump has said a lot of anti-Semitic things, and he just said something anti-Semitic yesterday.
Back to Trump again. Get off.
No, but I'm just saying, you know that, right? Do you realize that? But I'm just saying, do you realize that he was speaking to American Jews, and he called Bibi Netanyahu their prime minister, and that the American Jewish Committee actually had to come out and criticize the President Trump. So it was basically a dual loyalty trope. It's the same exact thing that she did. He just did it yesterday. And I'm not saying I'm not
this country better for Israel than President Trump. President Trump has a religious. I'm Jewish, as you know. I don't really practice it. You probably know more about religion than I do. He has an Orthodox Jewish son-in-law. His daughter converted to Judaism. So it's insane to me how you people keep saying, "Oh, he's anti-Semitic." It's just
I didn't say. First of all, hold on a minute. I know I have. Let me just say this. I just want to. But let me just say this. I have a
insulting true anti-Semitism.
I know people that first of all, hold on. I didn't say he was anti-Semitic. I said he had an anti-Semitic trope yesterday, which he did. It is the same thing that people are accusing her of. And I know people I grew up with that have half black grandkids, and they're racist. So I don't sit there and go, he's not anti-Semitic because his son-in-law is Jewish. That's nonsense. I'm not accusing him necessarily of being anti-Semitic. I do think he's racist, and I've said that to you. We can get into that another day. But I'm just saying that you talk about her being anti-Semitic and the reasons that you're saying, he just did yesterday. I'm just pointing that out. It's a fact. But let's talk about the question that I asked you. Who in AOC's not running? Come on.
No, I didn't say she was, but a lot of the candidates are like a mantra. They have to shake their heads in agreement. Yes, I agree with the Green New Deal. They're like robots. The Green New Deal is a socialist manifesto with the government taking over practically the entire economy. And all the Republican candidates are shaking their head up and down. Yes, I agree with the Green New Deal. It's the greatest gift ever happened to the Republican Party. So that said, you asked me I'm going to tell you which candidate I did like. I did like that there was like a mayor, Pete Buttigieg, I think his name was.
Yes.
I have, as a Republican, I don't really follow him that closely, other than all the socialist things that they're talking. But I did like the fact that Pete Buttigieg said about 2 weeks ago, our candidacy can't be all about Donald Trump. We're not going to win if we run on how much we hate Trump. We have to put policy forward and try to connect with Americans. If it was you running, I hate Trump, Trump's an asshole, Trump's a piece of shit. It's hard. You're not going to win. You have to connect with Americans.
That's not how. First of all, I wouldn't run, and that's not how I would run against
America.
America. Go ahead.
Doesn't care about the Russian investigation, about Wolf Blitzer jumping up and down, getting out of breath, about the next smoking gun. Americans care where they can put gas in their car, put food on their table, have a place to work. You connect with the American people, you will get elected. Now, if there's a Democrat that can do that, that person will get elected. But right now, it seems the only person that connected with America has been Donald Trump as of 2016. So we'll see. But you asked me a question. I like that Pete Buttigieg guy, but it's too early in the race to see. I think.
Okay.
I'm
gonna list it. Yes, I do. I think he is, and I think if he was the nominee, I think he could win.
He might
I think that
I don't know,
and I think he could win back some of the Rust Belt voters.
More moderate than the left socialists that you're part of.
So yeah, this notion that you have on me that I'm this like far left extreme person, I'm absolutely not. I am left of center. I am not in the Bernie Sanders crowd. Quite frankly, and I know this is going to upset a lot of the listeners here, and I'm sorry, and bless you if you like him. I don't like him. I don't like his policies. I don't even think he's a democratic socialist. I think he's a straight up socialist. And I'm not interested in that. I am a capitalist, but I do believe that a little socialism here and there, particularly when it comes to healthcare, could go a long way. But I'm very proud of the Democratic Party right now. And by the way, I'm only a registered Democrat because in Texas I have to be to vote in the primary. I have no allegiance to a party. But I want to just go down a list of names. We're going to do 3 more parts here. Give me 5 minutes. I'm going to go down a list of names. Just give me like a 1 to 3 word reaction to them, okay? Kamala Harris.
I think she too much of identity politics. She has no shot.
Okay. Beto O'Rourke.
I think the fact that Beto O'Rourke made a very...
No. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just... There's an exercise here, sir. 3 to 5 words.
Well, I didn't catch that part. What am I supposed to do?
Okay, yeah, if you don't mind. Okay, I'm sorry. Just because it's kind of a game. And it's just fun. I'm just saying, give me 1 to 4 words, I really should say, on these candidates. And you perfectly did it with Kamala. So just kind of give me your gut reaction. Better work. Just initial quick reaction. Fake, okay. Bernie Sanders.
He made a very funny joke about his wife that every person in their right mind thought was a very reasonable, funny joke, and he had to apologize for it.
I don't disagree that his apologies are nauseating.
That was painful to hear as just a person.
I agree, and as a Texan, I liked him, I supported him, and he's somebody I'm excited about now. But I agree with that. He needs to cut that shit out. What about
and he also apologized for being white? That's right. He apologized for his white privilege. Oh my God.
Okay. Well, there's such thing as white privilege, but we don't need to apologize for white privilege. We need to just help make our country better.
Why do you have to apologize for
I didn't say
characteristic of a human
I
being?
didn't say that we did. I don't think that we do.
Okay.
I don't have to apologize for being white.
Okay.
I can recognize there's white privilege. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. Yeah. But you're killing the spirit of this little game.
I'm sorry.
All right. And then we're going to end this on a solidarity note.
Okay.
Bernie Sanders.
Communist.
Okay. Joe Biden.
Too old school.
See, there we go. Elizabeth Warren. Please don't say Pocahontas.
No,
please don't say Pocahontas.
I would not do that. I don't think she has a chance.
Okay. Fair enough. I saw her recently in Dallas. She was very good, and I met her, and she was sweet. We talked, got her picture, but I'm not interested in her being the nominee. I do like Kamala Harris though. One more. Let me just give you one more. You gave me Pete. You kind of threw me off of that because I didn't expect you to go down that road. How about Cory Booker? And we'll end it there. Cory Booker. One last one.
Spartacus.
All right.
Who do you like? Right. Who do you like? Let me just ask you. Who do you like?
Right now, as it stands today, and this could change drastically. My dream ticket is Beto Kamala, but that could change. Beto's done some things that aren't quite working for me. I love Mayor Pete. I want to know more about him. I think he's a powerful, intelligent. And he's also a vet. You have to respect that. I like Joe, you know, but I just don't know if he's the right person for the right time. I don't like Bernie. I'd vote for Bernie over Trump in a heartbeat. I'd tattoo his face on my back over Trump if I had to. I'd do that Roger Stone style if it meant I could unseat Trump. But that's kind of who I have my eye on right now is Kamala Harris and Beto, Mayor Pete. And we'll see. We'll see who else. I'm going to keep my eye open for Joe. And Gorbachev I like her in a lot of ways as well. So we'll see. I have no idea really at this juncture. I say Beto Harris. That's just my gut because I also came off a high watching. I watched Beto inspire people in a way that I haven't seen since Obama 2008 here in Texas. And I know he didn't win, but people have to understand he came under 200,000 votes in a statewide election for a senator. That's insane. But anyway, all right. So what I want to do right now is I want you to, and I mean this when I say this, and we've had a lot of fiery stuff here, and we're both passionate people. I take on a more passionate, fiery tone. You regress and take on a more condescending tone, but it's really the same thing. We're just doing it differently. You agree with that, right?
So by you saying that you're not condescending, by calling me condescending, what is that? I'm saying
that Texans and New Yorkers really aren't that far apart in their personalities. Okay. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
All right. I want to give you literally, and I don't care if it's something that makes me want to jump through my window and set myself on fire. I'm not going to comment on it. I want you to close this out with your whatever you want to say. If it's one sentence, if it's 5 minutes, it's completely yours. And then I'm going to ask you one last question that's completely unrelated to politics. Okay? So do you have any just final words you want to say? And I promise you I'm not going to interrupt. I'm not even going to respond.
At the end of the show, I just would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to let your audience hear number one, that the 63 million of your fellow Americans that supported Donald Trump are not a bunch of hillbilly hicks. As a matter of fact, I know plenty of very highly educated medical professionals that are Trump supporters. And the scary thing is, we actually have to hide that because we get ridiculed for that. But I just want your audience to hear, I'm a person just like you guys are. I have a wife, kids. I have big wheels in my basement. My kids drive me nuts all the time, my 4-year-old. We're all the same on the inside. So we have to somehow, like shows like this, figure out a way to come together. And that is one of my biggest problems with the president is he can be divisive. I think Obama was very divisive. I want us to figure out a way to come together because we talk about your kids, talk about my kids. We all have the same issues. Black, white, brown, white. We all have kids that sometimes drive us crazy and sometimes just want to eat them to pieces. So, that's my last word here.
Well, I appreciate that. And I promise I wouldn't say anything, but I'm going to break that promise, but in a good way. You said one thing that I do just want to comment on. You said that you appreciate the fact that all Trump supporters aren't hillbillies and dumb idiots. It's exactly why I asked you on the show 2 years ago. This is exactly why I asked you to come back. And I appreciate the discussion. And I think we need to talk more as Americans. We're very divided right now, and it's a problem. So thank you very sincerely for having quite frankly, the balls to come on the show and do this. I mean that. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay. So let's end this show here. It's something that you and I have in common. Well, we have a lot of things in common, but I think there's something that we very passionately have in common. And so I want to ask you one last question. It's going to be the hardest question I asked you the whole show. You ready, dude?
Sure.
What is your favorite Stevie Ray Vaughan song?
Dude. Oh, how could you? That's a very tough question to answer. But I'm gonna give you. I play guitar. I'm a blues guitarist. You do know that.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm saying this not just off the cuff, but if you go on YouTube and you Google Stevie Ray Vaughan's rendition of Texas Flood from the El Mocambo in 1982 or 83, Musicians will say, arguably, that is the greatest captured performance of a blues guitarist ever in video, ever, period. And I concur completely. Watch that and try to argue how that is not the greatest blues guitarist performance ever. Stevie Ray Vaughan performing the song Texas Flood live at the El Mocambo. This is right before he hit it big, 1982. Do it. You'll thank me.
Who's your second favorite blues artist?
Wow.
You know, Robert Johnson was someone I was introduced to as a young kid because I love Zeppelin. And I had a buddy, I'll never forget this. He's like, do you know where rock and roll came from?
Yeah.
Because he said it came from African Americans, man.
Oh, absolutely.
He said Elvis wasn't the king of rock and roll. He stood on the shoulder of kings. As cool as Elvis was, and he was. And they played Robert Johnson for me. He's like, these are some Zeppelin riffs. And then I was like, wow. And then I just fell in love with blues. You know, I'm not going to lie and pretend like it's like my favorite genre of music, but I very much love it and appreciate it, and even more so as an adult. But if you love rock and roll, you got to love blues.
And blues came from the call and response calls during chain gangs back in the 1800s. It wasn't Robert Johnson that created it. He had it from someone, and he was around in the early 30s, so he had to learn it from people stemming from the 1800s. It came from the call and response of people in chain gangs, and it evolved into this great, purely American art form called the blues. And any guitarist has to give all their proper respect to all the incredible black artists that taught us how to perform this great American tradition. I do. I've spent hours learning, thousands of hours learning Robert Johnson stuff.
You know, one of my restaurants I used to oversee, B.B. King's niece would come in and she would sing. She was like, she had a voice like an angel, man. All right, I'm going to give you my favorite Stevie Ray Vaughan song. You ready? I'm going to do it in lyrics, and you tell me what it is. And then we'll wrap the show up. Good?
Go ahead.
And I'm tone deaf, so I'm not going to sing. But if I inadvertently start singing, forgive me. I've also been drinking some vodka because I had to prepare for this show because it's hard. It's hard to have when you have disdain for a man and then there's someone that supports him. You want to have disdain for them and you try not to. So I had to have a few drinks, but I'm good. Okay. I appreciate it. All right. So, but up and down that road in our worn out shoes, talking about things and singing the blues. You went your way and I stayed behind. We both knew it was just a matter of time. You're living out dreams of you on top. My mind is aching, oh Lord, it won't stop.
Oh, there we go. Got my guitar.
And finish it off. And that's what happens living life by the drop.
Oh, yeah.
Life by the Drop is my favorite Stevie Ray Vaughan song.
Yeah, those were tracks that was put out on the album that was after he died in a helicopter crash. That was a posthumous album that was put out.
All right, so I'm going to wrap the show up. I know that you don't have a podcast. You're a practicing physician, but do you have anything you want to plug, or do you want someone to follow? Are you on Twitter? Do you want anything like that, or you just want to say?
No, again,
adios.
Just thank you for this opportunity. We should do it again. Maybe somehow open it up to telephone calls in the future.
Okay, I'm glad you said that. Our next show, we'll do a show together again, and we're going to just dedicate it to taking calls. And I think that would be great.
Yeah,
Sound good?
I'm kind of tired of talking to you. I'm sure you're tired of talking to me after 2 hours.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll take calls, and it'll be fun. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up. Dr. Doug Friedrich, thank you very much. All right, guys, in addition to our podcast, we ask that you also like us on Facebook and YouTube and follow us on Twitter. I said this at the top of the show, but just as a reminder, at Left Shoe Politic. If you care to follow us individually on Twitter, follow me at Shoe Rick. Follow Michael Malloy at Goody Malloy and Jeremy at Fit with Jeremy. And on behalf of me, Michael, and Jeremy, we thank you for your support. And now, announcer Rachel will take us out.
Thanks for listening to this episode of our Left Shoe Politics podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Left Shoe Politic. Follow the Facebook page at facebook.com/Left Shoe Politics and the LSP website, leftshoepolitics.com. Search for our channel on YouTube, Stitcher, and Google Play.
On our way up the road, we started over again.